most Ghanaians think they can trade land like you can trade tomatoes. So you walk to a tomato place and you say, I want one paint rubber. They fetch for you. You go home. Land lends itself to complexities. In most jurisdictions, all the lands are in the cluster 1, the state cluster. So the kinds of challenges we have here, you won't meet them in some parts, even in West Africa. Those countries in which the state allowed traditional authorities to continue to own the land have these kinds of problems. Now, for those countries, what the state should have done was to say, okay, you own the land, but the state should have been very vibrant and vigorous in determining matters of land use. But what we have here, not only did we allow traditional authorities to control the land, but the state agencies, which is the instrumentalities of the state, because our law says that the district assemblies are the primary planning authority for the districts where they have jurisdiction. But unfortunately, within the structure of government, the assemblies, unfortunately, have become the weakest link because of capacity and resources. Yeah. So the assemblies are not able to ensure compliance even with their own schemes or with schemes they have approved. So you go to A to get the land. A does not have the power to give that land. But A will take your money. B, who is the cousin of A, would come and say that A doesn't have the power. I have. So you pay to B as well. C would come. Or, like the scenario you gave, A will sell to you, myself, himself, all of us. Many years back, we had legislation to try to deal with this thing. Unfortunately, for this country, when laws are passed, the challenge is not the passage of the laws. I was the leader of the team that put together the Lands Act. And we started in 2003. The act was passed into law in 2020. So the product of 17 years of work is one of the best pieces of legislation which was done through a very inclusive process. But those who passed the Land Act are not the ones who are going to be enforcing the Land Act. So there is sufficient provision made in the Land Act to deal with multiple transactions.
It protects the potential land buyer.
To deal also with the question of land guards. The law has been set out in a way that nobody mentioned land guard in the law. But
so how did they come into existence then?
So in Section 12 of the Land Act, provision has been made that if anybody should come to your land where that person doesn't have an authority and they extort money from you, or they intimidate you, or they prevent you from developing the land, the prison sentence is in the region of 15 years imprisonment, in some cases without a fine. The question is, how do you get the land guard arrested and prosecuted? In some cases, the land guards may probably be more armed than law enforcement. In some cases, the land guard may have support within the establishment. In some cases, the land guards have the support of the traditional authorities themselves. But who created the land guards? The land guards primarily were created by the landowners to help them ward off encroachments from adjoining landowners. So Stool A would bring land guards to help protect Stool A's land. Then the land guards turn against Stool A. And they turn against Stool B and Stool C. So there is enough law in the books to deal with them. What is remaining is the enforcement. And then also, the Lands Commission should set up an intelligence unit working with the police where they would be able to flag out the hotspots